Hey, good morning, everybody. Steve here, the retired hobby tech guy who is also an American expat in Korea. Yeah, we retired here, and I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Now, you might be looking at your watch and saying, wait a second, it's 20, what is it, 28 January? You're kind of behind the time. New Year's was a way back. Well, that's the normal New Year, but the Lunar New Year has come up, and that is being celebrated today. So if you do the lunar calendar, it's all kind of craziness, and yeah, we'll get into some of that a little bit. So anyway, a lot of people here in Korea are off for a number of days. Traffic is insane, but it's also cold and snowy, so I expect we're going to see a bunch of accidents, and it's going to be pretty rough. But in case you're wondering what it looks like, there is the view from my apartment, and yeah, you can see that the snow is kind of hitting up there. Video's kind of glitching a little bit, but yeah, that's what we end up having is it's snowing and the roads are bad. Things are getting worse, and it makes it even worse for the U.S. service members that are flying out today. So, for those of you who don't know, I live next to the largest U.S. overseas military base in the entire world, which is Camp Humphreys, Korea, which is located close to Pyeongtaek, which is a couple hours south of Seoul. We live close to there, so I get all the benefits of Korea, and I get to use the commissary, the PX, and see a lot of Americans. And most of the time, that's good. Sometimes it's not so good. But yeah, I mean, we were in the military. I spent over 20 years in the military. We spent a lot of time in Korea, so it's kind of like being home. And yeah, it's great being retired. But yeah, as you can see, it ends up it's cold, it's snowy, it's just yeah, it's pretty rough. And let me see if no, that's not the one we want. What one do we want? Yeah, we'll just do that for now. But you can see that, yeah, it's pretty snowy outside. It started last night. We didn't get a lot, but we did get a lot of precipitation and kind of that slushy, ice cold rain. And so I imagine the roads are pretty rough. So the military people and their families that are assigned to Korea that have done their tours, their 1 or 2 years or whatever, now they're flying out of Korea, which is in Incheon, which is normally about 2.5 hours, 3 hours away. And it being New Year's, the Lunar New Year, yeah, this is going to get insane because those days the entire country ups and moves out to go to their hometowns, and traffic is horrendous. So add in the snow and add in everything else, it's going to get absolutely insane for those people. And you know, you're going to have flight delays, you're going to have flight cancellations probably if this keeps up. We don't even have that bad of weather down here, and it's worse farther up north towards Seoul and Incheon and things like that. So yeah, Lunar New Year, snow, cold, icy roads. Yeah, everybody on the highways and stuff like that. It's going to be absolutely crazy. And for those of you who don't know, being in Korea during the holidays is really interesting in the fact that normally when there's no snow and you have the Lunar New Year and people are going to their homes, you could have, say you're going to Seoul. You know, from where we are to Seoul is about 2.5 hours. That could easily become a 4, 6, or 8 hour drive. It just depends. You know, 4 to 6 hours isn't unreasonable. You know, Korea's got like what, 50, 53 million people, and the Lunar New Year happens, or you know, Chuseok, which is their Thanksgiving. Everybody goes to their hometown, and so yeah, the roads are packed, and that's one of the things that I don't like about Korea. We're going to talk a little bit about the things that I don't like in Korea, and I guess we'll just kind of leave this up there so we can see the snow. That's kind of a cool thing. The other view is from behind my back, as you can see there. I got to work on my posture, but we'll keep the snow covered stuff up there. And yeah, some of the things that I don't like about Korea. besides the bad traffic during these huge holidays, is traffic lights. Now, for the most part, probably about 98% of the time, traffic lights don't bother me. But the same things that bothered me in the United States about traffic lights still bothers me here in Korea. And so that's when you pull up to an intersection and nobody is there, you still have to wait for all the lights to cycle and for your light to go so that you can go and turn or whatever you're going to do. There seems to be a lot of that here in Korea as well. So yeah, some things never change from country to country. Korea, I haven't noticed pressure plates like they do in the United States. So when you come up to an intersection and you'll see a line in the asphalt, and when you hit that, it's kind of a pressure plate or a magnet type device or whatever. So when you drive on it, the light system will recognize that there's cars there and they can change the lights. Yeah, in Korea, we don't have that. I haven't seen that yet, and we've been here over a couple of years, so that's kind of interesting. The other thing that I don't like is sometimes they'll put stoplights where there shouldn't be stoplights. And so, for example, even close to one of the ways that we get on post is you drive down this road, drive down this street, and there are some apartments. They're not big apartments. I mean, they're a smaller apartment complex. Not a lot of people live there, but there is a light there. And so you have a main road where a ton of people will go back and forth, going to the military base, getting off the military base, Koreans going back and forth to work and all this. And then you have this red light, and it's not a street, it's the entrance to an apartment complex where barely anybody goes in or out. And even if they did, it should just be a stop sign, and so you yield and go whenever you can. Because you're either going to turn right or left or whatever. But the fact is, barely anybody uses that, and that light will come on, and you'll have to stop there for a few minutes. You could do your taxes, read your text, post on Instagram or whatever the hell you do, make a TikTok. Oh, some of you can't do that. Oh, now we're back to TikTok, I guess. Okay. But yeah, that kind of bothers me. The other thing that bothers me about Korea is online shopping. Online shopping in Korea is just kind of crazy because of the fact that it's so hard to do. And for those of you who don't know, of course, I got my phone up there. Let me get it. But it ends up that online shopping on your phone ends up being very problematic. So if I want to, like, for example, in the United States, if I want to shop on Amazon, I go on there, I create an account, I put my email, I put my login, put a password, enter in, boom, and I've got an account. If I enter in a credit card, I can do that in a matter of about 5 minutes. And that's with drinking coffee at the same time. Here in Korea, online shopping is insane because your identity is tied to your phone. So like my Korean visa that I have, the wife and I, the Korean visas that we have, that is also tied to your phone, which is tied to your identity, or your identity is tied to your phone. And this is kind of like the anchor thing that proves who you are. Yeah, if you don't use the exact same spelling of your name in the same order as it is on your visa, you're going to have some problems. It's going to be very problematic, and you won't be able to get online shopping account. And then having it connect up to a credit card with a Korean bank, oh, good Lord, it is insane, and there's a reason for that. Unfortunately, there is a lot of online fraud and phishing and people trying to steal money from your accounts and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of phishing and hackers trying to get your information. So one of the things that they'll end up doing is you'll get a link or sent to you via a text and SMS. And what it'll say is like, oh, your bank account has been overdrawn, blah, 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 or your account is going to be closed. If, click this link to find out more, blah, 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 to stop it, whatever it is. Oh, you got a refund, click this link. they always have click this link. Your stock, your investment is whatever, the government's doing this, click this link. And once you click that link, they will have access to your phone. And once they have access to your phone, then they can wreak havoc on it. So identity theft is really bad. Fraudulent access to your funds and credit cards and all that is really bad in Korea. So they've had to really step up their game in regards to security. But it's gone so far that it's just like insanely difficult, even just to open up an account, even just to link your bank card or link to your bank account. Case in point was, as I was setting up mine on my phone for Naver shopping, I was able to link to my bank card. It's like a debit card. So whatever we have in the bank, my online shopping will draw from that. The problem is that when my wife tried to do that, she couldn't do it, and it had to be linked to the bank, and then there was limits on how much she could spend, and I have no idea why, because it doesn't make sense. It does make sense when you hear that people have access to your bank, that you limit the amount that can go out, so that kind of makes sense, but it should be user defined, and it's not. And trying to change it from my wife going to her account, to her bank account, to her bank card, which would have no limits, whatever the limit is in your bank, that's your only limit. It took like an act of God, and we had to bring in the wife's family, some friends, and they're looking at it, and they, spend 45 minutes to 2 hours going over everything, and then finally, boom, my wife was able to have her coupon and Naver and whatever else, linked to her bank card instead of her bank account, which was limited. And I've heard other stories of this as well. And it's just a pain in the butt to do online shopping sometimes. And then there's the obvious. We're in a foreign country. We're in Korea. And unfortunately, a lot of things aren't in English, like they kind of are in the United States. Imagine that. What are the odds? Some people get really, really mad at that. So with, the Naver app and things like that, they don't have an English translation. So then I have to use Naver through like Chrome that has a translation plugin, and then I'm able to do what I need to do. But even then, trying to search for things in English on a Korean shopping website, you will get some hits and some replies. Some results will pop up. Other times you won't get anything. So then you have to go to the place of where you are, put it in English, translate it over into Korean, and then copy the Korean, then put it into the field, the search text, and then you can find the results. It's a frustration sometimes. And online shopping seems to be harder in Korea than it is in the United States, at least according to me and my wife. Of course, Koreans have been born and raised here. My wife was born and raised here, but we left, we got married and been gone and came back. But if that's all you know is what you do in the country that you grew up in, then it's like, oh, this is pretty good. But when you leave and you go to another country and it's a lot easier, like using Amazon, and it's boom, signing up is easy, boom, search, pay, next day delivery, you get spoiled. And while Korea is a small country and they have good delivery, but being that there's only 50 million people here and it's on the peninsula of Korea and it's a really small country, you'd think you would get same day delivery or next day delivery. Sometimes you can, but most often what I found is multiple days to get something. And even then, there's a lot of items that you have to get overseas. So, that's kind of, you have to wait for that, because if it comes from China or Japan or some other place, even the United States, you have sellers in Korea that will advertise certain products, and you're going like, oh, you're searching and you're like, oh, that's great. Yeah, they have it. And you order it. And then you find out that they're basically a middleman. So they order it for this price, and then they charge you this price, and then you have to wait for the shipping. So they're like drop shippers, I guess. And then it's shipped to your address. So they get a cut of money. I get it. That makes sense. But the time that it takes to get those things from overseas sometimes takes a while. 3, 4, 5 days, sometimes a week. Even things from China. I've had stuff from China that took like over 2 weeks. And I would get stuff from the United States here quicker to Korea than the stuff that I ordered from China, which is right around the corner. Go figure. Even there was a couple items I ordered from Japan that it took a long time to get here. And of course, once those items get here to Korea, then they got to go to customs. And then, if it's below a certain dollar amount, then they let it go. If it's higher, then you have to pay some, a VAT tax and fees and so on and so forth, import tax. It's just kind of problematic. And that goes back to the online shopping, because now you need to order things from overseas, you need to have a personal custom code. Yeah, things we don't have in the United States. To get a personal custom code, you need to go to another Korean website. You need to enter in your information. And of course, you have to be a legal resident of Korea. So you got to put in your visa, you got to put in your passport number, you got to put in your name exactly the way it is on your passport and on your visa. And if it differs, you won't get that personal customs code. So what is a personal customs code? Whenever you order something from Korea from a different country, you need to put that code in there because they're trying to combat, I don't know, some kind of fraud or sales or whatever, importing goods without having to pay taxes on large scales. So in other words, you'll have people that will try to order things in the names of other people to get those items, and then they sell them on the black market or whatever to make money without having to pay that value-added tax. So that's when they came up with the PCC code. So, which is really strange, because if you buy something that is in overseas, you have to give your PCC code, and there's been reports of people who have acted as middlemen buying stuff overseas. They get your PCC code, and then they order stuff using your PCC code just delivered to a different address, and it's kind of crazy. So yeah, it's wild being here in Korea. For the most part, it's not that bad, but I think the biggest frustration is being in the United States with 350 some odd million people and the vastness of all 50 states and a couple territories. You can pretty much get anything delivered to your house like Amazon within 1 or 2 days, maybe 3 days. Here in Korea, yeah, that won't happen. It's just different, and it's a little frustrating. And then what's frustrating is ordering stuff, putting in your PCC, the seller will request it, you send them it, whatever, enter it in, and then the item will come in. And you're thinking, great, okay, it got customs, the tracking is pretty good, but then you'll get a message that says, yeah, we can't confirm, your PCC is wrong, or the name associated with the PCC is wrong, and that could be due to the seller entering in your information being wrong, or the name in the wrong order, like Wilson, Stephen, Michael, and they put Stephen, Michael, Wilson. That could, oh, good Lord, that'll just upend the whole process. They can't figure that out. And even though that you've ordered things before overseas, use the PCC and have gotten approval and you're good to go, sometimes the sellers will mess up entering in the information. So if a seller puts your name and throws in a comma, it'll reject it. The item will come into customs, it'll have to wait, but then they can't deliver it any further because it's like, wait, there's a discrepancy because the name on your phone, on your visa, on your passport does not include a comma. So why does this have a comma? We can't deliver it. Yeah, it's, and then you have to go through this thing, and of course, you're nervous because all the hackers out there, and hey, your item's not being delivered, you need to correct your PCC information. No, I don't. You need to get with the seller needs to get with whoever in customs or whatever. It's just like, so it seems like so many unnecessary steps. And I've even ordered multiple items. I've ordered items from one company, and then I ordered other items from that same company and the same company, and they will screw it up every time. And the last time that they did it, it ended up being good. But the whole thing was there was a comma. They put a comma between, my last name, comma, and then my first and middle name. And that just stopped the whole process. Don't even put your nickname in any time you're ordering anything because you will not get it delivered, in my experience. So yeah, it's kind of crazy on ordering stuff. And what I really find amazing is that there's a lack of products that you can get. You think in Korea, which is probably one of the more technological savvy countries in the world, their public transportation is second to none. It's incredible. They're clean. Technology. Everybody has Wi-Fi. You're connected up to the net everywhere you go, except in maybe country or mountains. But they still have some problems. So yeah, ordering stuff is kind of problematic. And when I first got here, the thing that bothered me that I didn't like was they didn't have Amazon. And well, they did have Amazon. Amazon would deliver, but you would have to pay for the delivery fee. And so when we got here a couple years ago, if I ordered something from Amazon, yeah, I would have to pay the shipping fees. And sometimes the thing that I wanted to order that I couldn't get in Korea or from other different countries delivering it to Korea, I could only find it on Amazon, and I have Amazon Prime. I would have to pay for the shipping. Well, the shipping was often sometimes as much or more than the item I wanted to buy. So that was like, oh, seriously, really? I'm jonesing for Amazon to get certain hobby things or paints that I just can't get anywhere else. Yeah, very, very problematic. And seeing that I am a retired military, I have a military post office box, an APOAP post office box. But because I'm not under the status of forces agreement as military members and their family members and contractors that are here, I cannot get Amazon boxes shipped to an APOAP address. I can only get up to 16 ounces of correspondence, and I can get medical supplies delivered. That's it. I can't get Amazon. I can't do all of that stuff. But a little while ago, Amazon changed and said, well, if you meet $49 or more, you can get free shipping to Korea, which is great. The problem with that is that shipping things to Korea, and in the States, you could order, I remember this, being in the States, order on Amazon, buy 2, 3, 4, 5 different things, have them all bundled into the same box. You could get them sent separately if you wanted things to get there quickly, or you could hold off, and it might take a little bit more time, but they would all be sent in one box, which is what I like. Yeah, you can't do that here in Korea. So once you meet that $50 threshold, you get free shipping, but each of those items is going to be shipped in and of itself, unless it's from the exact same company. So like I ordered a ventilation system and some flexible piping and some adapters, the company that makes it. So I got some of those items all in the same box, but even with that company, I had some connectors and adapters from the exact same company was in a different box, and it got stuck in customs because of whatever. I had to re-verify my PCC and my information and all that stuff. So in the States, I could wait, and I would take maybe 3, 4 days, maybe 5 days, and then everything would be delivered in one box. Here in Korea, that doesn't happen a lot. And even on Amazon now, I don't get that option of package everything together in one box and then ship it. Jeff Bezos, if you're watching this, yeah, right, like, sure. He's doing his $1 billion yacht thing, so it probably not watching. But if anybody knows him by chance, let him know, hey, package all those things together in one box so it doesn't frustrate me like it does now. Yeah. Some other things that bother me in Korea is the doctor strike. For those of you who don't know, and it's been over a year, that's the insane part. Over 10,000 resident doctors have gone on strike, just quit doing their residency. And so, in other words, they went to medical school, they have student loans, and they were going through residency. And then they just stopped because the Korean government wanted more doctors to alleviate the overworked doctors that they currently have. And the Korean Doctors Union says, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to allow for any more doctors because that would destroy the medical system. And it's like, are you insane? I just don't get it. How is that going to ruin the system? And I'm not talking about, 20, 30, or 50,000 more doctors and putting a huge burden on medical schools and resident hospitals. I'm talking about 2,000 doctors, extra doctors. And you might think, well, that's still a big number. But really, in reality, with all the teaching hospitals that do residency training, that wouldn't even be one extra doctor per department. So yeah, it's not a huge thing, but it's more of a political wrestling around is what we're dealing with here in this doctor strike. That is still going on for over a year. People have not gotten their surgeries. People have not gotten cancer treatments. People have had strokes and heart attacks and wouldn't be admitted to hospitals, so they died. Other people, of course, the rich people, they can go to other countries and get treated. But for the most part, there's a lot of people that aren't getting treatments, and appointments are being pushed back 6, 8, and 12 months. And that backlog is crazy. Now, you might be thinking, well, the doctors' union is striking against the government, but you should know that most of the hospitals in Korea are for-profit hospitals. And here's the other kicker. This will piss you off, and you don't even live in Korea. Korea has not increased the number of doctors for 27 years. Yeah, 27 years. Korea has not increased the number of their doctors. It is absolutely insane. So let me see if I can move this a little bit. There, we'll go there. Try to get me more off to the side. But yeah, 27 years, they haven't increased the number of doctors, even though you had the baby boom, even though you had more people, and now we have a super aged demographic here in Korea, which is you get older, you need more medical appointments, and so on and so forth. For the last 27 years, whenever the government, under any administration, doesn't matter left, right, in the middle, whatever, anytime there has been a proposal to increase the number of doctors, the Korean Doctors Association says, nope, we're not going to do it, which is insane. It is crazy because they're the ones that are complaining that they're being overworked. They're working 120 hours a week. They're doing 36-hour shifts. They're seeing, 120, 140 people a day. So in other words, the amount of time at one hospital, I read one report that was talking about that the average amount of time that a doctor spends with his patient is 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah. Do you think some stuff could be missed in 120 seconds? Yeah. Yeah, so they're really overburdened. They're really overworked. And if you haven't got a pay raise in a while, then yeah, go on strike. But you're working for a for-profit hospital, but they're not on strike against the hospital. They're on strike against the doctors, the government in Korea, and the doctors. So it's a political thing. And I really hate that because it's the everyday, normal, hardworking Korean people and people like myself, foreigners who are on visa here. That's affecting their medical care. And people have died. People are still dying of that because they can't get medical care. And so now you have people that used to go to these hospitals where these 10,000 plus residents would supply the majority of care. If it's kind of similar to what we have in the United States. They just up and left and went on strike. I don't know how they're surviving. I don't know how they're making their student loan payments. Definitely the Korean Medical Association is not doing that at all. But the Korean people are paying the price on this. So unfortunately, like I said, appointments are being pushed back 6 to 8 months. Case in point, my wife had some eye problems. And we thought, oh no, it's cataracts or some big thing that would require surgery. Like I had surgery up at Samsung Medical Center in Seoul, which was one of the top 5 medical facilities. Huge, awesome, incredible service, great care, the best care I've ever gotten. Um, Super high quality care. But with that being said, they're also a teaching hospital. I have TRICARE Overseas Select Insurance, so it's no problem. And I have noticed that foreigners who have good insurance policies will get better placement in hospitals than Koreans sometimes. And at least that's what I've heard. So, which is very problematic. I don't think that should be a thing, but it is, unfortunately. But after the doctor strike started, and that got into a number of months, my wife, she called the hospital to say, hey, I need a checkup. We were able to get an appointment, and we're thinking about, well, what about surgeries? And they're saying, no, it's going to be 6 or 8 months before you can schedule a surgery because of the strike and because they just don't have the resident doctors, which is insane. So when you have somebody that is going through eye problems, that is losing their vision, kind of like what I had, and imagine just because of the timing, I got care, but imagine if the strike had happened and my appointment would be pushed back 6 or 8 months. I was at the point of where I'd lost 3/4 of my vision in one eye. And that's kind of scary. You start losing your vision and you're like, holy shit, that's crazy. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. What do we see here? How can I do this? No. Oh, look at that. Moko. Keep safe, sir. Yep, I absolutely will. By the way, this guy's he is an awesome tattoo artist, and going to get a sleeve cover up with him. But anyway, yeah, if you want to leave a comment, you can do that. I just found out just now that I could put comments into the feed live. Okay, cool, awesome. So anyway, back to the whole deal. If I had my situation during the doctor strike, appointments were pushed back 6, 8, even 12 months later, I would have lost vision in my eye, and I don't know if I would have been able to. Yeah, very problematic. And but it was fixable, and I would be basically blind in one eye, but that would be very problematic and distressing, and it could be fixed. But what about the people that don't have 6 to 8 months, where if their condition worsens, it's going to result in deformity or further injury or loss of sight or whatever it is? It's absolutely insane, and I don't know why the Korean government has allowed the Korean Doctors Association to have so much power over the resident doctors. And I don't understand the resident doctors. It's like they're not thinking long term, in my opinion, of how am I going to pay my student loans. I went to college, I did pre-med, I went to medical school, and now I was going through residency. If you're gone for an extended period of time, you have to redo your residency. And these people haven't gotten back. Matter of fact, I want to talk about this. Let's take a look. Yep, still snowing. Live feed. This right here is new doctors in South Korea plummet to 269 amid medical conflict. Sharp decline in medical exam passers raise concerns over future healthcare work stability. Now, here's the thing. Before Korea ended up doing the strike, they were high on medical tourism. They were high on providing great care as a country, definitely a first world country. And then when they had the doctor strike, their doctor-patient ratio dropped, and hence the quality of care dropped for the population. So they actually ended up like being number 3 from the bottom of a third world country. So the strike has been crazy effects on the Korean people, and it's really putting people at risk. So I don't understand. So anyway, we continue on, and it ends up that the number of new doctors, which surpassed 3,000 annually. So in other words, you have the natural attrition that comes from doctors quitting, doctors retiring, doctors going overseas and working somewhere else, and there's a slot open for those people that left for whatever reason. Usually it's about 3,000 annually. Remember, they haven't increased the number of doctors. We're just talking about keeping the same numbers, which was 3,000, and it's dropped to 269 this year, which is less than 1/10 of last year's numbers. So even during the strike, even though it's been going on for just over a year, this is a monumentally huge drop. According to the Korean Health Personnel Licensing Exam, 382 people took the exam, of which 269 passed. The pass rate is 70.4%. That's dismal. So now this is going to compound the problem even more, because now you've got, 2,800 or 2,700 some odd doctors that aren't going to be doctors because people didn't take the exams. And you might be wondering, well, why? How come this is not being addressed? And it's like, well, the deal is that why is this affecting the doctor's strike? Well, besides the doctors going on strike, the Korean Doctors Association also has influence over the medical schools. So the medicals, they basically had the medical school students to say, we're going to stop going to medical school because of the strike, because it's so unfair, because the government wants 2,000 more doctors, and we haven't included any increase of doctors in the last 27 years. So we're going to side with the doctors union. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, absolutely insane on what that comes down to. So when all of these medical school students refuse to go to medical school, like I said when this first started, it's going to have this ripple effect, and this is the ripple effect that we're seeing. From 3,000 candidates going to residency or medical school, now you only have 269. So, which is crazy, out of over 3,000. So that's kind of a very huge thing. With a significant drop in new doctors, there are concerns about disruptions in the training of residents and specialists. You've got over 10,000 residents that are gone, and now you're concerned, but yet the government isn't doing anything. It's just like, whatever, Of course, they're dealing with the impeachment now, so this is probably left on the back burner as well. Each training hospital plans to recruit interns for the first half of the year on March 3rd and 4th, which out of 269, I think there's like 37 teaching hospitals, resident hospitals. That's not going to be much. And so you're going to see even more doctors and whoever the residents that stayed are going to be overworked even more. So very, very huge problems when it comes to doctors and the doctor strike, and now because of the medical school students going on strike and people saying, oh, well, I'm just not going to go to medical school anymore because we don't need more doctors, which is insanely stupid, in my opinion. So I really don't like that stuff here in Korea as well. And there's nothing saying when this is gonna, we have an interim like president here in Korea now that President Yoon has been impeached, and he's going through that process. He still refuses to own up to anything that what he did was wrong by declaring martial law, which is very problematic. And it's just not a good thing for Korea right now. And what they're doing, and again, it's the Korean people that are taking it in the shorts. It's really, it's kind of distressing as Korea being a first world country and having problems like it's having now, especially with the doctor strike and with the impeachment and the martial law that was declared. Oh Lord, that was stupid. So the president declared martial law, and of course now there's other things afoot with his wife, the first lady, being involved in stock manipulation and getting gifts that she wasn't supposed to have according to law, and a cover-up thing, and then the martial law that he declared, where he told the military and the police to not let any lawmakers into the National Assembly. And you might say, well, why would you declare martial law, and why would you not want the lawmakers to come into the National Assembly area? Well, according to Korean law, it is the right of the president to declare martial law. But they have this system of checks and balances so that you don't have dictators like Kim Jong-un, like up north. You have checks and balances, and the law in the Korean constitution is that the assembly can come together and vote, and if the majority of the votes say no, we're revoking this martial law, it gets revoked. So President Yoon told the military and the police, make sure you keep the lawmakers out of the National Assembly so they can't vote. Because you can't vote in any other place except in the National Assembly. So you see, he was trying to manipulate that loophole and say, well, if they can't be in the building, they can't vote. If they can't vote, I will be dictator. And then there's a whole lot of stuff going on with that. He's saying, oh, it's terrible and blah, blah, blah. And if the laws don't apply to him, it's just insane talk. I mean, it really makes you wonder. And even now, he doesn't think that he's done anything wrong. And the scary part is he has a number of supporters that are backing him, saying, good job, And it's like, North Korea, you had the Korean War and that whole thing, and that's kind of scary. And people aren't remembering how that happened. This is kind of how it happened. Of course, it's to the extreme. It's kind of like referencing Hitler, South Korea and North Korea and things like that. But that's what happens when you don't follow the rule of law and you don't think that you're bound by the laws put forth in your own constitution, which can be very problematic. Question is, did that affect anything for us here in Korea? No, not where we lived. For people up in Seoul, they saw some tanks, they saw military, especially around the National Assembly area. People kind of freaked out a little bit. There was bank runs. ATMs were emptied of money because, when you declare martial law, the first thing that comes to mind is, I need to get out of here. I need to get my money, and I need to get out of here. And to get out of here, I need to get my money. So they went to banks, they went to ATMs, they emptied out. So yeah, people were scared. For us, we have money, and it's not that big of a deal. We could leave, grab a bag, and go. But it's, again, very, very problematic, and that whole thing is still up in the air. So even though President Yoon has been impeached, he actually resisted arrest. His security wouldn't allow people to come in and arrest him, and then he finally got arrested. He kind of holed up into his house and things like that. Then he finally got arrested. He was put in a jail cell. He answered questions for one day. Then after that, he refused to answer any questions because he didn't think that what he did was wrong. And this whole thing about the impeachment process is wrong. It doesn't apply to him, even though it's the law of the land. It's in their constitution, which he swore to uphold when he was elected. See, kind of problematic. So yeah, that kind of bothers me a little bit, and a lot of Korean people. So yeah, there are some things that bother me about Korea. But on the other side of the coin, there are some very good things about Korea. Korea has an extremely low crime rate. And all of the years that my wife and I have been in Korea, we have never felt unsafe, which is saying something. Now, being that I have lived in multiple states in the United States, I can't say that I have felt safe. I have felt safe in the United States because I was a concealed carry weapons instructor and so on, in the military. And so I have training and trained, probably over a couple thousand people in my time. And so I feel confident in defending myself. I had to pull my gun once. Didn't have to fire it, thank God. That was enough to change the mind of somebody who was confronting me with a deadly weapon. This was in Colorado, and he changed his mind when I pulled my gun. So thankfully that was a non-issue, which was great, But here in Korea, people are more respectful than they are in the United States, in my experience. I haven't lived in every single state or every single city, but I lived in Colorado, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and I was stationed up in Washington. I was stationed in Clarksville, Tennessee. Uh, let's see, I was in Oklahoma. Where are some other places I've been? Oregon, been there, and probably a couple other states where I've spent some time. Now I've driven through a bunch of states, but that doesn't really count. But generally, what I found is that as a whole, Korean people are more respectful than what I experienced in the United States. And an example of that is transportation, public transportation. Public transportation is great here in Korea. You got everything from buses to taxis to subways to trains to bullet trains. Um, and when you get on a city bus or when you get on a train, in the United States, you'll see up in like New York or Los Angeles, or oh, I've also been to Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for a year on Oahu. You will have crazy people. You have people that will yell and shout and scream and be loud, noisy, and disrespectful. Younger folks, older folks, crazy homeless people. But in Korea, it's not like that. When you get on public transportation, everybody's quiet. And even if you're talking on your phone loud, that is considered rude. And so when people talk on their phone on the train, they will have a lower voice. And you don't need to yell on your phone. That's not how that works. You can just talk normally into your phone. But here in Korea, people are way more respectful than what I've seen in the United States. So, and the low crime. So there's that. Even when I was in places where I probably shouldn't have been in the hours of darkness, because nothing good happens after 9 p.m., according to my grandma, never felt unsafe. Even though I was in some unsafe areas, I never felt unsafe. And even then, the level of respect was huge and politeness and things like that. I did get into one altercation with a Korean who was drunk. He was yelling at me, and I didn't know what he was saying. I was kind of a few sheets to the wind, and so was he. And then we ended up, I bought him a drink, and then we became friends and still didn't know what we were saying to each other, but we had a great time. So, other than that, I've never had a bad experience in Korea. Neither has my wife. The other thing that I like about Korea is that expenses are half of what we paid in southern Colorado. So that allowed us to retire early, which was awesome because my current trajectory for retirement is I was working for the state of Colorado, and according to their thing, I would have to work until almost 70. And of course, then you look at the age of when men die, I'd probably have like 5 years or whatever, 75, maybe 10 years at the most. And then you die. So you would have minimal time for retirement years. But retiring overseas really got into my blood because it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to enjoy more of my retirement years. Excuse me. And Korea has allowed us to do that, or overseas retirement allowed us to do that. And thankfully, we were able to retire over here in Korea. And that was all because of my wife's ancestry in Korea. They were able to get those visas. Korea does not have retirement-friendly visas like Portugal or Costa Rica or Thailand or Philippines or things like that, where they say, hey, if you make $1,200 a month, you can retire here and get a special retirement visa. Or what is it, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, the pensionado visas and things like that. We looked at all those places, but nothing really clicked for us. But when we found out that we could get a long-term visa because of my wife's ancestry and I'm her spouse, and we started digging even more, we found out that where we wanted to live, again, location is important, and we figured out the housing, the utilities, the gas, the food, the cell phone service, the internet service, all of that. It ended up that we were paying half, and sometimes less than half than what we were paying in the United States. And there was a lot of things that was half. It was really kind of crazy. Let me see if I can pull up and give you an example. Expenses. I've got that. And we'll take a look at this and we'll zoom in, make things bigger so that you all can see it. I know you can't see it right now, but we'll get there. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. We'll just do this right here. We'll just do the screen and we'll show you what we got here. So here it is. Here's our Korean 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and can I make that up bigger? No, I don't think I can. So anyway, we bought our apartment, which is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It's about 1,500 square feet, and yeah, our property tax is about $16, maybe $20 a month. We have an apartment fee, which takes care of the grounds, the landscaping, the elevators, the outside lighting, the security guards, the underground parking, and the cleaning of all that. That's $175 a month, and that's including the electricity, water, and trash. So some of these are actually, they give you prices, but the trash isn't. It's all of this is included in this $175 fee, which water and sewer in the United States, what we were paying was double, easily double. Electricity was, you're looking at $100 plus. We have our own gas heat for the apartment, which is $64, which is less than what we had in the United States. Our internet and 250 channels of cable TV is $30. Our 2 cell phones, which are paid off, our service is $80 a month, and it's unlimited text and voice and whatever. Water filter is $9 a month, so we're paying about $421, and then we have some other things there. So yeah, we're paying way less than what we were in the United States. Let me see if we got some other ones. Comparing expenses. Here's the one thing. So like housing and rent in Colorado for the place comparable to what we live in now would be $2,000. Now it's up to like $2,500 or $2,700. Here in Korea, it's like $1,400 if you rent it. Now, we bought our apartment, so that's not a thing. Property tax at the time was $165 a month here in Korea. At the time that I did this, which is, when we first got here, was $16 a month. Now it's like $20. Electricity in the States was $140. We're paying $40 here. Gas was $90. We're paying $65. Water was $40 for water and sewer. We're paying $10 here. Trash was $20 a month. It's included in that fee, so there's no like subcategory. It's just part of it. Internet in the United States was $75 a month. We're paying $15 for high-speed internet, and that's bundled with our cable TV. So that comes out to $30, and then our car insurance is about $115 in the United States. In Korea, it was $110. But there's an addition to that because we don't drive as much as the average Korean. That now it's like $80 some odd a month. So yeah, it pays to be retired and not go a bunch of places. So yeah, it's just a lot of different things when it comes to expenses. And how that stuff is, it's so much cheaper overseas. It depends on where you live. Now, we don't live in Seoul, obviously. If we lived in Seoul, there's expensive places that real estate, the exact same layout of our apartment here, that we paid maybe $250,000. In Seoul, you would be paying over $1 million easy. Just depends on location. And real estate is location, location, location. So yeah, it's just kind of crazy on what we end up seeing. Let's get back onto the, I want to do an overlay, camera overlay. And it's not letting me do it. Oh well, it is what it is. But anyway, that's what we got going on. It all depends on where you live, and if you live away from big cities and away from Seoul, real estate prices are cheaper, expenses are cheaper, but they're still, pretty. They're less. The expenses are less than what we paid in the United States, and of course, if you go to other countries, Philippines is really inexpensive, Thailand, things like that. Yeah, it's people or countries that have lower, I'm not saying they're third world countries, but they're not first world countries. So you're going to get lower prices for those things. And yeah, it is what it is. Why is that camera overlay not working? Let me try that. Does that work? No, that's not it. My switcher system has gone all haywire, so I don't know what the deal is. Oh, wait a second now. There's that. Oh, okay, there we go. It was just up on top of itself. Sorry about that. So anyway, yeah, that's what we got going on. Expenses are less overseas, and you're going in some places, you'll have to make compromises for things like the quality of care, medical and things like that. Other countries where if you want top-notch medical care, you're going to have to go to the big cities or the capital cities like Samsung Medical Center up in Seoul. And that's kind of the unwritten rule here, is that if you have something really serious medically, you go to one of the big top 5 medical hospitals in Seoul. There's hospitals throughout Korea, but the level of care is not on par with what you would get with those big 5. So there's local hospitals and there's local clinics, but you're limited on, the service and some of the things that you can get versus a big hospital. But if you're generally healthy, it's not that big of a deal. So, but with the doctor strike, going back to that is still problematic because some emergency rooms up in Seoul and those resident training hospitals, they have closed their emergency room on certain days of the week, 1 or 2 days a week. So you'd have to go to another hospital to get emergency care. And that's problematic, and, if we think about that. So yeah, very different on the things that are going on here in Korea. There's a lot of things that I don't like. Not a lot of things, but things that bug me. But you get used to it. But then when I was living in the United States, there was things that bugged me about the United States. Property tax was going up $100 a month or $100 a year every single year minimum, like clockwork. And when you start projecting out all of the increases for electricity, gas, water, sewer, and all those things, and you look at those increases, there's big jumps in those expenses versus here in Korea or overseas where, yeah, you have increases in expenses, but it's not as drastic as what it is in the United States. So yeah, it's really kind of interesting here. So anyway, as you can see, it is still actively snowing, so we're probably not going to be going too many places today. We do have the Lunar New Year to do and enjoy some family time. Luckily, they live locally, so we won't have to drive. We could even walk there if we wanted. We'll see how that goes, or get a taxi. If you enjoyed this, if you have any questions, put it in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe to The Varied Life on YouTube. I would appreciate that. And if you want, you could even buy me a coffee. And these are the awesome people who have bought me coffee. I would appreciate that as well, because you could be one of those people that are awesome and buys me a coffee using the link in the description box or the link that you see right down there. Anyway, that's going to be it, and hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of your week. It is Tuesday here in Korea, and we're looking at 9 a.m., so going to be a snowy day. I think we're going to call it a snow day. I don't know if we're going to work out today because of the roads. We'll see how that goes. It's not far, but I don't want to lose my parking spot, and everybody's off today, so we don't have assigned parking in our apartment complex, so sometimes getting parking is a pain. But that's it. So yeah, like, subscribe, buy coffee, whatever it is. Appreciate you watching, and hopefully you'll have a good Lunar New Year like we're going to have, and enjoy your friends and family and all that stuff, and we will see you on the next video. Peace. We'll just leave you with the snow. Yeah, there it is.